Welcome to another episode of Immersive Minds with me, Tan Lei. Right now, I am joined by Mr. Mark Sage from the area. How's it going, Mark?
And thank you very much indeed for inviting me. Doing really well.
So, can you quickly tell me what is area? What does area do?
Yeah, no, thank you very much. The area stands for Augmented Reality Enterprise Alliance. It's a global membership-funded, not-for-profit alliance helping to accelerate the adoption of enterprise AR. So we've been going for over 10 years. The model has been the same for those 10 years. Within our kind of ecosystem or our membership, we have three different types of companies. There are the companies that are deploying the technology. So we've got some amazing brand names like Boeing and Raytheon and ExxonMobil and Lockheed Martin and a number of others. Then we have a group of the providers of the technology, which we break down between the hardware and software. And again, some amazing names like IMMERSIVE, but also PTC and Dassault. And on the hardware side, companies like Magic Leap and Vuzix. And then we have a third group, which are kind of non-commercial organizations. And there are a group of different organizations in there. They tend to be kind of government funded. So we have government agencies, research institutes, standards organizations, and also a number of universities, which are often very important to have within this ecosystem. So that's
Wow.
kind of who we are. And then what we do really is about delivering thought leadership. It's really thinking about what do business decision makers need to know? Well, they need to understand what problems can be solved using the technology. They want to see other companies that have actually deployed the technology. But most importantly, and this is something we do a lot on, about the ROI or the business case behind it. Because as leaders of organizations, it's all about making money or saving money. So we provide kind of input into that.
So, let me quickly ask you then the three groups, the first and the third group. So, the companies and the universities, are we at a stage where everybody knows what augmented reality is and the benefits?
No, there's a very simple answer to that. I often use the analogy of an iceberg, and the people that are understanding and deploying are the tip of the iceberg. Now, obviously, over that 10 years, the iceberg is going up or the water level is going down. So we definitely see more and more companies that are understanding and trying to deploy the technology. So I often talk about the three different levels. We have the experts. The companies have been doing this for a while. They've either built their own teams or have a strong set of partnerships. They have a very clear idea of what problems they're trying to solve. And they are the thought leaders, and we're lucky enough to have, many of them within the area membership. Then we have that other group that are really stuck, as I mentioned before, in pilot purgatory. They kind of understand the technology. They've actually invested in it a little bit, but they're struggling to kind of deploy it across the organization. At the moment, it's a kind of an R&D. It's a cool demo. It's a proof of concept, but it's not, bringing real business benefit on a regular basis. So there's a kind of a chunk of that as well. And then, you get the other end where people are just brand new to it. They may be getting to understand, they may be doing some research, or they really have no idea how this technology can kind of revolutionize or really help them in their day-to-day kind of business. So it
Yeah.
tends to be in that three level. It's very much a triangle where the people that don't really know are the biggest chunk at the moment. And then the tip of the iceberg is a smaller amount. But part of my goal and the area's goal is to push everybody up the iceberg, if you like, or certainly up the level of understanding so they can actually deploy the technology and most importantly, make substantial savings and benefits to their organization.
Yeah, I like the way you said cool demo. I think those words sometimes I find that they can be slightly unhelpful in that, especially in enterprise case, because they immediately associate it with cool things, games, entertainment. You find that that's one of the barriers to overcome, which is making them see that this is more than just a cool visual thing. This can actually help you.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think it's an interesting journey where the AI starts within an organization. Okay, so sometimes you get from an R&D perspective, it's a cool technology. Let's go and try it out. Maybe not always totally clear on the use case or the real kind of business problem. So they've done something which may not be 100% relevant, but they can prove the concept of AR and what it does. I think where, in my experience, it works really well is where the business says, actually, we really understand this technology. We're going to kind of evaluate it. We could still work with our innovation and R&D teams, but it's a business push rather than the technology push. But ultimately, the bit that's really important is making sure that you're solving real business problems. And that's where, if you can get to that stage, then you'll get the budget, you'll get the stakeholder buy-in, you'll get, some of the other barriers that we see, getting the security teams and the IT teams to buy into the solution and help deploy it. So it really is about solving real business problems that is driving real business benefit for the organization.
Yes. All right. Well, let's look at let's get to some business problems. So I have a couple of videos here. Shall we take a look?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are we looking at here?
Yeah. So this is a company, I think they've really, the mature company have been around for a while. This is a kind of an interesting video here where you're showing multiple different solutions in one. So the first one they had was basically taking you a wayfinding thing to taking you where there's a problem. Once they've got to the problem, they're now able to identify where the problem is. And again, they're using a tablet. They're actually recognizing what the problem is and giving the worker there a set of instructions of what to do. So there's a step-by-step guide. He is looking at what the issue is. He's looking at the different dials, where they should be. Are things closed? What's the scale? So he's getting a very much overlay of information to help him understand what the problem is. Now, in this example, we go to another use case, which could be standalone, and it's remote assistance. So he's looked at it. He doesn't really know what to do or how to solve the problem. So he's now calling up an expert. This expert could be anywhere in the world. And the expert is able to overlay, using images or a free kind of hand, showing the person what to do. And actually, at the end of the video, I think, which is really interesting, they're beginning to incorporate AI, which is recognizing that, something, basically this lock needs to be sealed at the end of it. And AI is doing that and showing them that it's actually been done. So this person doesn't need to decide or know if it's been done. AI is doing it. So it shows something which I'm seeing a very strong trend at the moment, the combination of AR and AI to really help, and there's a whole multiple of different use cases. We've kind of looked at a few there, but, being able to put relevant, contextual and up-to-date information to that worker when they need it is something that, the technology does, but also really is impacted and benefits from AI as well.
Yeah. And to understand this better, let's try to imagine the world before this technology was available. So it would have to be, and tell me, if I'm correct, it would have to be somebody who knows the layout of the building, somebody who knows exactly where to go. And now this would be more difficult the more complex the environment is. And then they would either need to already have the knowledge in their head, or there would need to be some kind of manual attached to the thing, right? Like, am I?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
How would it be without this tech?
Well, it would have to be an expert. Okay, it would have to be an expert who knew it. There's that very story. I don't know if you've heard the story about somebody who retires from a company and the machine breaks down, and they bring them back into the work environment and says, "Okay, right, we need to fix this." And the guy says, "Right, okay, I'll go and fix it." He takes a hammer and bashes the kind of product, and it starts working again. And it goes, that will be $2,000 or £2,000 or €2,000. And they say, €2,000? You've just hit it. He said, yeah, it's $50 for the hammer And the rest of the money is to know where to hit on that tool, being the expert of knowing where to hit. And that's really what we've been suffering, or not suffering is the wrong word, but that's the history of people being able to either fix things or build things, is they become real experts. And then when they get to retirement age or they move on to other roles, that knowledge walks out the door. So with AR, we're able to capture that knowledge, capture that kind of tribal knowledge they often talk about. And once you've done that, you can use that to show new people, you can use it for training, and more importantly, you can use it on job. So anybody can now, with a set of overlays, follow exactly what needs to be done. So it's certainly making companies more efficient. It's improving their performance. And I think the other, I call it kind of an intangible benefit, was difficult to measure. But by using this technology, some of the more traditional manufacturing kind of companies or aerospace are able to actually go to the younger people and say, we're using this new technology. Wouldn't it be great if you could use AR to do this? And that's really bringing the next set of workers, because they're actually using a really cool technology to do something, to do a task that maybe if they had to sit on the shoulder of somebody or, learn how to do the task over a number of years, may not be quite as appealing.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing. We have kind of mentioned, but I want to specify the beauty of especially location-based AR is the stuff is attached where it needs to be attached. And that's another key, which is the physical location, right? So when he points to the right thing, something pops up, and then if he points it at something else, something relevant pops up.
Absolutely. And I know this is something that IMMERSIVE are really strong in as well. And it's been fascinating watching you guys' journey. It's not only about finding things, but it's about monitoring assets. So being able to know where an asset is within a kind of, it could be a big yard, it could be an underground mine, it could be almost anything. But also people. People are assets. They could be walking around in dangerous areas. So being able to pinpoint them and know where they are and make sure they're safe. I know it's something you guys do, and it's hugely important within companies that are looking after their assets and have big spaces to monitor and measure and stuff like that. So ranging from very simple kind of visualizations, just being able to see something in 3D, to kind of collaboration, to maintenance, to build, to decommissioning. The opportunities are huge. And I think we are literally scratching the surfaces of what can be done.
Absolutely. This is early days. All right, let's take a look at the next thing I have here. What are we looking at here?
Okay, so this is looking a little bit more at the collaboration use case.
Urban planning.
This is a company based in the UK that are using XR on a number of different levels, really. The first one you can see here is about looking at a citywide development. So city developers now, and of course, it's not so much in, places like Dubai that are really using this technology. They're able to see buildings, they're able to understand where the sun comes and see the impact of that. They're able to look at roads and where that happens. So it's a great way, of designing, could be cities, but actually that could be buildings, or it could be elements within a building. I think the other important part, and something we see on a really strong use case at the moment, is about collaboration. So we're very much a global world. Companies have offices in different parts of the world. It's difficult to collaborate. We kind of often use technology like Zoom and Teams, but being able to see things in 3D, to actually be able to look around it, to be able to change things, to be able to make changes in that immersive space is something I know and I'm beginning to see is happening more and more at the moment. And then when you can overlay different information on top of that, you get a really strong shared knowledge base that allows you to make better decisions, to reduce the design kind of footprint. And one of the things we're seeing, certainly in construction, if you can use, AR technology to do the initial design and the developments, we save a lot of wasted time. One of the things I hear about construction projects is they actually budget about 25% of the budget goes for redoing things because they're not quite right or delays. So, AR is going to bite into that 25% and reduce it, which is great news for everybody. It means that things are going to be built quicker for less cost and more accurately.
Love it. This, I mean, the benefits of this is so obvious to anyone who, as soon as they see it, right? Because what we would normally have to do is build the physical model out of plastic. And then once it's built, it's just built. You can't tweak it. You can't, now this is dynamic. You can spin it around. You can make buildings taller. This is a no-brainer.
It is 10, but there are some interesting challenges of having to deploy the technology as well. And that's why we talk about pilot purgatory. I don't know if we're coming on to that question about...
Well, yeah, please. I have never heard that term, pilot purgatory. So what's piling up? Well, explain a little bit more, please.
Yeah. So it's pilot, as in they're doing a proof of concept.
Oh, pilot.
Pilot, yeah, sorry. But they're stuck in pilot mode, okay? They are constantly just kind of showing and demonstrating. As I said, there might only be a handful of different devices and software licenses used. It's kind of stuck in R&D. And there are a number of reasons why that happens, but some of the things that we focus on in the area to help our kind of members, and we call them the barriers to adoption. So probably one of the biggest ones is around security. Now, security actually means lots of different things when it comes to XR. It could be as simple as just getting devices onto the network, so through MDMs or mobile device management tools, you need to get those. Obviously, the IT security team needs to make sure that these devices are secure. So remember, it's got loads and loads of different components, which is capturing information within your organization. Now, that information may be IP. It could be designs that are important to you. Obviously, you have the potential issue of ethics as well, where you're taking people's faces and do they want that to happen? Is that right for those kind of things to happen? So there are a number of different security issues, as well as that content leaving the company as well. So that's one thing that companies are concerned about, the whole security area and the ethical area. Obviously, another piece that we focus on within the area is about safety. And people's concentration is being kind of removed from the real world into this virtual, or not virtual, but into this augmented world. Okay, so they're focusing on it could be anything from a simple kind of diagram to a video or to a step-by-step guide, and they're not looking at where they're walking. They can hit their head, walk into a wall, walk into a forklift truck, could be lots of those different things. So we've developed, certainly in the safety committee, a set of kind of guidelines and best practice. So it's simple, and I can give you an example which really brought this to life. One of our members is Newport News Shipbuilding, build those big aircraft carriers. They build them in components and put them together. So they kind of build almost like a separate room, put them all together, and it turns into a big aircraft carrier. Now, when they do an inspection, they could quite often be, there's nothing behind you. So you're doing an inspection. Historically, they would have done a piece of paper and kind of gone, is that correct? Is that correct? It would take them up to 90 hours to do an inspection. Now they're able to do that using AR. So they take a tablet overlay and they can quickly see if the different components are in the right place. It takes them 30 minutes. So they've made a 90% improvement in the time, which is all money on the bottom line. But of course, there's concerns now that they're actually focusing on that. Yeah. And potentially they could be walking backwards. Saying, well, I need to get a bigger view. And of course, walking backwards may mean they're going to drop off the edge of the aircraft carrier. So there's little simple things that we've been developing the safety committee about, if you walk backwards, the overlay turns off. Or if you're walking too quickly, the overlay will turn off.
Love it.
We've also done some work in the safety committee on using PPE. So protective kind of equipment. How does that work when you've potentially got a wearable or a device and gloves on? or safety glasses and things like that. So yeah, these things need to be thought about when you're looking to deploy AR use cases. We have a really nice process within the area. It's kind of 11 different steps where it gets people thinking about, what is the situation that you're in? So are there any kind of technical constraints? Are you in the middle of a field looking maybe at wind farms? You may not have any connectivity. What kind of equipment are you going to have on? Where's the content held? Is that in core systems within your could be a PLM or one of the enterprise kind of systems? You may need that content out. How do you do that? How do you keep it up to date? What are some of the issues with individual workers? Do they think it's going to take their job? So all of these things need to be considered. I think in summary, Tan, when it comes to deploying the technology, and companies that do it well, they treat it as a change management piece. It's not just like how we're delivering a new set of tablets or PCs, laptops. We're really changing hearts and minds. And companies that do that successfully deploy the technology. The ones that kind of think of it as an IT project and just try and say, right, here's this wearable, you're going to do your job now, may come a cropper at some stage.
Okay. So you're saying it's quite easy to get to the pilot, but from there to get to the next step, there's a few more barriers, and that's the current biggest challenge right now, which is getting over those.
Perfect. That's a great summary. One of the kind of things I always say is, plan big, but start your deployment small. Okay, so what I mean by that is when you're looking to deploy AR within a company, include the IT teams, include the safety managers, include the stakeholders, include the end workers. In fact, when you're designing a solution, the end users are going to be the most important bit, because you want to make sure you're solving business problems for them, because they're the ones that are going to be using it. Make sure you've got your infrastructure team in and stuff like that. But when you've actually got them, they're all bought into it, they're supporting the project, they understand the benefits, they understand their role within that project. And actually, when you look to deploy it on a smaller scale. So then, because you will find kind of additional things that you may not have thought of, you're then using that smaller deployment to really engage with the wider set of the company. So now you're kind of demonstrating to the stakeholders and the senior management team, you're demonstrating to other people, but you've got something you can show. So that's what I mean by I guess change management is a very grand term, but it's about getting all the important elements into the project, getting them bought into it. They're probably going to love the technology anyway.
Okay, Mark, so before we finish, let me ask, I think I know the answer to this already, but just look into the future. How confident are you that this is going to become ubiquitous? It's going to be everywhere. Just looking at this year, the amount of new headsets that are out, do you think that's what it takes for it to go everywhere? And, do you have any doubt in your mind that this will be everywhere in the near future?
No, I have no doubt. And to be honest, in my kind of little world in the UK, I'm convinced, but you've only got to listen to the leaders of some of the biggest technology companies in the world. The Apples, the Metas, Snaps, all the other kind of companies are absolutely convinced this is the next computing paradigm. You have amazing companies like Qualcomm that are enabling that. What's always fascinating to me is I see companies, big companies, but also down to startups coming with the kind of latest technology. So absolutely convinced. Is it a kind of a straight line like this? Is everything going to be fine and happen real quickly? And the answer is no. We're definitely not. Within the kind of 8 years I've been leading the area, we've definitely had bumps. We've had some great, particularly on the hardware side, technologies and wearables coming in, but it's a difficult business. You have to sell a lot of devices. So, we're probably seeing a little bit of a downturn at the moment. You mentioned there's some new ones coming in, but some of the kind of like the older ones that have been around for a while are kind of being end of life and sort of interesting kind of strategic decisions. But constantly I'm coming into new companies that are wearing developing wearables, developing software solutions. I think one of the views I'm seeing, and I think this will be a trend, is that we'll see companies focus a little bit more on particular use cases or particular industries, or a combination of the two. Hey, the kind of generic device that does everything is actually quite difficult to produce. So I think we'll have a little bit more focus on particular, as I say, industries and use cases. And those two, in my eyes, within the AR kind of world, we have a whole bunch of use cases that are very relevant across lots and lots of different industries. So people say to me, what industry is leading? I say, well, actually, it's about the use cases, because remote assistance is as relevant in aerospace as it is manufacturing, as it is utilities and oil and gas, because they all have that kind of need to fix things. So, I think the hardware bit needs to improve. I think this combination of AR and AI is going to really catapult some of the kind of content issues. I think the other kind of trend is we're seeing the VR headset manufacturers looking at kind of, and I won't call it AR, because to me, they're using cameras to see the real world rather than your own eyes.
Yep.
But there's some definite use cases there, and we're seeing the likes of HTC and Meta and the other ones showing a kind of a pass-through, which is going to be great for training. So we're seeing a mixture of different kind of solutions, but absolutely convinced this is going to be the way the future. I tell you, tennis is one of my little kind of funny pet things. You may find this really strange, but we all spend our time kind of crouched down, either on a keyboard or looking at our phones. And one of the silly ergonomic benefits I think we're going to have when the wearables become like glasses is we'd actually stand up straight again in the world, be able to look at the real world in front of us and still get the information we need. And maybe my back won't be kind of curved as it always feels like it is. So I know it's a little silly anecdote, but that's going to be one of the benefits that I think of having this technology in a kind of usable way. I think on the flip side of that is we need to be careful that we only have the information, what we need and when we need it. So we're not going to get a kind of a digital overflow or a tsunami of all this kind of content. So managing the content we need is going to be important, providing it in a usable way that's going to make it really comfortable to wear and relevant. You can see why everybody's kind of clamoring to be the next big thing when it comes to XR technology, a combination of VR and AR.
By the way, I don't think straightening humanity's back is a small thing. I think that's a huge thing. And I think that's something that we should be aiming for. I mean, I'm telling my kids all the time, back straight, shoulders out.
Shoulders out,
so, yeah, Mark, I mean, I could do this all day with you. I think we're going to need a part 2. This is already probably 2 parts, so we're going to need a part 3. But I'm going to say thank you so much for sharing your insights. And yeah, I love that you said separating the use cases from the verticals, because you're right. This use case can apply to multiple verticals. Wayfinding is the same in any industry, remote assistance. So you're right. But anyway, we could go on all day, but I'm going to say thank you. Were you going to add something?
No. Just thank you very much for the opportunity. It's always amazing to speak to kind of like-minded experts, and we all have a role really to promote in the ecosystem. So anybody that's listening, please talk about your use cases. Either come to the area or to IMMERSIVE. Let's make sure that everybody understands, because going back to our iceberg, we need to kind of push the people that are not aware yet of the benefits of the technology. Give them the opportunity to understand. So thank you for the opportunity for me.
Yeah, I love that. I think we all have the responsibility in any field to share your story. That's what humans do. We share our experiences. So, we're not saying promote, we're not saying sell. I'm just saying share. Just share your story.
Brilliant. I absolutely agree. Thank you.